Hello everyone. In this session we will go through some more sculpting tools. I have an example of fish imported in this Mudbox application. Very first of all, I'll show you a tool called Foamy Tool. Foamy Tool is intended for initial shape forming rather than that for creating fine detail. It is similar to the Sculpt tool but has a softer feel. For example, if I am using a Sculpt tool, let me take a new layer, and if I am using a sculpt tool, as I am sculpting it with a stamp, I just off the stamp and I am using this sculpt. But the difference between the sculpt and a foamy tool is, it's like, for example, if I want a smooth fine surface, it should be in a sculpt form. I can use the foamy tool because it will give me a smoother surface as compared to sculpting. You can see I am sculpting this part using tool called foamy tool. I can press shift and I can smoothen the surface. If the surface is uneven, smoothen it. Just smoothen it slowly. You can use this foamy tool, the wings. Yeah, use it. Foamy tool works like a sculpt tool, but it has a softer feeling as compared to the sculpt tool. After that we'll come to the spray tool. Spray is like what you want to spray. For spray tool I have to activate the stamps accordingly. For example, if I am activating the stamps from here, I can just click over here. I can activate my stamps. I can increase the brush size, can increase the strength. I can just use the stamps accordingly. Increase the strength and use the stamp and see the stamp, but in the form of a spray. In the form of a spray, I have a stamp. For the stamp, I'll just let me change its material. I just right click, assign new material to Mudbox material. Now let me assign this spray tool over here. You can see the spray coming out, or I can say it's spraying in a form of a pressure. What it's spraying? It's spraying the stem, the particular stem which I have taken, and reduce the strength. Now you can spray it accordingly. You can spray it in various forms. You can spray it everywhere. You can use it. You can work in this way. You can use shift option to smoothen it. You can smoothen it using the shift option. You can spray the particular areas. If I need a steady stroke, I can use this spray for a steady stroke. It will give me a very steady form of spray affecting the part, various parts affected. The top part you need to affect it. You can use this. Just press shift and you can smooth it. Now I'm using another tool. I have one more tool, the eraser tool. I can erase the sculpted part or the deformed part. If I want to erase it, I can erase that part. You can see, I can drop that particular part. But make sure you are on that layer. You can on and off the layer. So I can work accordingly. On off the layers and make sure it affects it. We have one more tool. Can move on. That is a tool called the bulge tool. What is the use of a bulge tool? For example, if I want some holes, if I want to make some eye parts, I can use a bulge tool. Can on this layer, you can see some part coming out. Even you can make different stuffs with this. If I press Control, the particular match will go inside. It's also used for creating some eye shapes. It's also used for creating some fine detailing on the fins of the fish. I create some fine details, increase the size. To create details over here and create. Can increase the level. Press Shift D. Now you can increase the level of the mirror option. You can take a new sculpt layer of this mirror option. Now start working. You can create some fine details. Can reduce the size of the brush accordingly. Can reduce the size of the brush. Reduce the size of the brush and work accordingly. Create some fine details. Can see some rough form top of its body. Like this. Create some details. Press Shift. I can even use my smooth tool to smoothen the surface. Smoothen it. You can see the detail. Smoothen the mesh accordingly so I can work it out. Press W. Now have come out from the wireframe mode. You can see some details. Same thing I can achieve by bulge. If I want the same things in the inner part, I can press Control. So I'll get the same stuff inside. I use a eraser tool. I can just rub off the marks. On the mirror tool. One more tool that is called Amplify. The Amplify tool accentuates surface detail by raising high areas and lowering low areas as you stroke. It's a very good tool because, for example, if I have some areas which have been sculpted, and if I have some areas which have been sculpted in a negative way, or I can say which are in the downward form, it will affect both the areas accordingly and it will make the surface in a precise way. You can just activate this amplifier option and you can work accordingly. You can increase or decrease the strength accordingly. Start working. use this option. It's a very good option. It's also used for the fine detailing. I can even use my pinch option as I explained in the previous session. Pinch tool is used to bring the edges closer, or it will make it sharp, as it will bring the whole surface closer. Use this smooth tool to smoothen the objects. I'm using this smooth tool, make it smooth so I can work it properly. I don't need any sculpted, I can see uneven thing. One more tool I have, that is called a repeat tool. Repeat tool is very useful. For example, if I have some sculpted part and I want to repeat that sculpted part in the further on process, I can use this repeat tool. I'm using the same surface with different ways, the different forms, the sculpted mesh. It will repeat all the sculpted mesh. You can see this. Mesh is getting deformed. You can reduce the strength. You can see the repetition of the same things. As you move on, you will get the repetition of the part which you have sculpted initially. Work, repetition, form, repetition, way, and see the sculpted parts. Again, smoothen this surface and smoothen this particular side area. Smoothen this, can work in this way. There is also an option called fall off. For example, if I want to change the variation of the sculpting part while painting, I can use this fall off option. I can change its fall off. So as I will sculpt, like if I sculpt in this way, I get the sculpt in this form. If I change the fall off, I change it like in this way. If I want something in this way, and if I sculpt it, the same thing, the same stem, but there would be a variation in the parts. I can say the variation in the stem. The stem is same. The sculpting would be in some variations. You can see this ups and downs, but in a very variation form, just because of this fall off option. There are also some options over here. I can use this fall off, different fall offs. See the variations. You can see a lot of variations in this. See this. There's a lot of variations. Can you see this? More sculpt. I can see. Can see this. This is a bit smoother part. I can work it. Different stuffs can work accordingly. Use different. This is also different fall off option. Okay. For example, if I have sculpted a stem, I have one more option called mask. What is the mask? For example, if I am masking the sculpted part, so what does a mask do is it will not delete that part. It will just hide that sculpted part. For example, if I am masking this part, you can see this, the part which I have masked, the sculpted part gets hidden. So for example, again if I am sculpting it, I get the stuff, but For example, if I want to hide it temporarily, I can use this mask part, press Ctrl, and I can unhide, or I can say I can remove the mask from it. You can see, for example, the mask is used to hide the parts temporarily, the sculpted part. Or else you can say, if I want that the sculpted part should not be affected, I can just mask that part. There is one more option, I can freeze the things, I can even freeze the parts. So if I freeze it, so the part which I have freezed won't be affected. This part be affected. This part won't be affected because it is being freezed. Just go into this, I can use and freeze all. So will unfreeze all the parts. I can just smoothen this part again as before. For example, I have some sculpted part in this way. There is option called flatten. I can flatten the surface, flatten those parts. I can flatten it as before. You can see it is flattening the surface, flattening it very uniformly. Okay. Flatten the parts, can work accordingly. And even flatten the top parts, reduce the strength and flatten the parts. We come to one more tool that is called a knife tool. What is the use of a knife tool? Knife tool is used to create some cut shapes. For example, knife tool works as a knife. If I need to put some cuts, if I need to make some knobs or cuts or anything, you can use the knife tool in a very proper way. You can increase it. You can see the knife will work like a knife, will act like a knife. It is also used for creating some fine details on the mesh. You can see use this knife tool. Can press shift, so it will smoothen that surface. Need to use a knife tool over here also. Pressing Ctrl, the mesh of the knife will come in upward form. You can see this. I reduce the size of the brush, increase the strength. You can see. I can see the sharp cut in it. Let's increase it level 5. Now you can use this knife tool. You can see the form surface. Some cuts, increase the size of the brush, reduce the strength. Use the knife tool. The deformation. Cut if I need to put any cut over here. A rough cut if I need to put, can use this option. In this session, in the next session, we'll go through some more tools. Till then,